Alright guys, welcome to another movie review. Today we're going to be doing Ant-Man. Unfortunately I don't have an Ant-Man shirt, but I do have a Captain America shirt, so I decided to Marvel up. So yeah, like I said, it's Ant-Man, which is a Marvel film. It stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, and Corey Stoll. The movie centers around Scott Lang, but starts with Hank Pym. Hank Pym is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. We don't know if he's a founding member of the S.H.I.E.L.D., but we do know that he is pretty close, at least pretty close to being a founding member. He walks into a room with Howard Stark, which is Tony Stark's dad, and another gentleman who I can't remember his name, but he turns out to be a Hydra agent, which is, it's obvious in the way that they set up the conversations that take place. Basically, Hank Pym has created the Pym particle, which allows him to shrink in size and become the Ant-Man. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to be using this for more violent things, or to at least for what they want to achieve, and in Hank Pym's opinion, that's not what he created it for. So he ends up leaving S.H.I.E.L.D. and starting his own company called Pym Labs. And he takes on a protege named Darren Cross, which is played by Corey Stoll. In leaving S.H.I.E.L.D., he buries all of his secrets of being Ant-Man. So he takes, the serum, he takes the Pym particle, and he takes his suit and everything and buries it, make sure that nobody else can find it and all of these things. But Darren Cross has become obsessed with trying to find out who Hank Pym is and what he's hiding. And because of this, and because he's getting close to finding out what Hank's hiding, Hank pushes him away, and this infuriates Darren, and so he gets the help of Hope, which is Hank's daughter, to vote with the board of directors to vote Pym out of the company, and succeeds. So it's pretty telling that Darren can get Hank's daughter to kick him out of her father's own company. And in saying that, the movie does touch a lot on their relationship. The big thing that centers around their relationship is the loss of her mother, and you do learn that Hank wasn't alone in his fights as Ant-Man. His wife Janet fights alongside him as the Wasp. Which is cool because we do get the whole backstory of Ant-Man with Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne as as Ant-Man and as Wasp. But it seems like Marvel wants to take it into a different direction and do Scott Lang, and which is fine with me. It doesn't really matter because I never really read any of the Ant-Man comics, so this is fine, and I think they do a great job with this film. So, what happens after basically is you learn about who Scott Lang is. You learn that he is a father, and but he's in and out of prison, so he doesn't see his daughter much. You learn that he has a master's degree in some sort of computer programming or computer engineering or software engineering, something like that, and he's working for this really big company who he finds out is stealing money from clients and from employees. And so he decides he's going to turn them in, but is fired from the job before he can do so. And they destroy all of his credibility. So no one will believe him. Everything he says, no one will believe. So what he does is he breaks in and he breaks into their software and returns all the stolen money. Unfortunately, he gets caught and is put into prison, and that is what he's famous for. He categorizes his thievery as burglary because there is no violence. So people always want to throw him as this violent person, but all of his crimes don't involve that. It's always kind of more. It's like a heist with no violence there. There's no, like I said, no violence. So basically, what happens is because Darren Cross is getting so close to achieving the goal of the Pym particle, creating a new Pym particle, Hank Pym turns to Scott Lang because he knows how smart he is and how good of a thief he is. So he turns to him he needs Scott to break in to Pym Labs and destroy everything that Darren Cross has done. Now to break away from the baseline of the plot, let's talk more about the acting and the epicness of this movie. The acting was good and it was funny. However, it seems like they turned away from Paul Rudd being the funny guy, to give him a little bit. I think it's to make him maybe more believable as a superhero or even as a hero. But what I think that they miss is that Tony Stark is a funny guy, even though he's a playboy and all these things. Tony Stark, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. does a great job, but Tony Stark's character is, I mean, in this universe, is a funny guy. So I don't understand. Maybe they feel like they can't have two. So they make Paul Rudd not dumbed down, but they don't make him as funny as I think they could have. They put all the jokes onto different characters. So, which is fine, because if they want to make him more believable or make him seem more like a superhero in that sense, I guess they succeeded. So basically, what they have to do is, what you learn, though, is that Hope is actually working with Hank to destroy Darren Cross's dreams of creating a new Pym particle. So they draft Scott Lang and teach him how to be the Ant-Man. The coolest part of this movie isn't the shrinking, isn't the ants, isn't the final fight with Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man. The coolest part of this movie is when they need to go and break into a S.H.I.E.L.D. Structure, S.H.I.E.L.D. building, and they think that it's just like a storage unit type building for S.H.I.E.L.D., but it turns out, from the end of the Avengers 2, turns out to be the new Avengers facility. So when Ant-Man gets there, Falcon is actually there, and they have this huge fight with Ant-Man and Falcon, which is awesome. It was cool to see, like, our hero of the movie fighting a hero from another movie, which, none of these guys are bad, but unfortunately they happen to be stopping him from getting what our hero needs, which is cool because it sets up, I mean, that fight scene doesn't necessarily, but it alludes to the Civil War. We're going to be seeing our heroes fighting our heroes, which is really cool to see. It's something that I feel like not a lot of movies have done. I feel like that's something that the Suicide Squad is trying to do, at least in, like, our villains are fighting villains, which is cool too, and I'm excited for that movie. But this, I think Marvel has done a better job than DC in creating a universe. However, it seems like DC is starting to do the same thing. So basically, like I said, they turned away from Red being the funny guy, which is somewhat disappointing. The action is great. I think that they do a good job with him shrinking and getting bigger, and I think it's cool with all of the ants. They have all different sorts of types of ants, like some, like fire ants, and I'm not an ant expert, but all different sorts of different ants, and not just one type, which is cool. The post-credit scenes are somewhat interesting. So the first one, because there's two, there's a mid-credit scene, and what happens is it's Michael Douglas, so Hank Pym, taking Evangeline Lilly's Hope into a room behind his secret room, which is a prototype for the Wasp. And he tells her that the whole time he was building it for his wife, but it turns out the whole time he was actually building it for her. So we do know that Evangeline Lilly will be back as Hope to play Wasp, which I think is really cool to see because she's such a big actress. She does such a great job, and it's cool that we know that they've locked her in, or at least locked that character in for future movies. Then the second one at the very end is Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, Falcon, so Anthony Mackie, and then Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier, so Bucky Barnes. They find him. I don't know if they've had him like captured there or whatever, but they find Bucky in some sort of like mechanic place, and he's in bad shape. And they're saying like they should call Tony, but they're saying Tony might be too busy with something, and I can't remember what it is, but it sounds like it has something to do with the Civil War. And Steve is kind of like, I don't know what to do, and Falcon says, I know a guy, he knows Ant-Man, which is cool. Now, to jump to some Easter eggs, there's one that sticks out in my mind. They do talk a lot about other Avengers, and they talk about I mean, it seems like in most of these movies they talk most about Iron Man. They don't. I mean, there's sometimes like there's Thor references and there's Captain America references, but for the most part, it seems like they center around Iron Man, which is obvious because it seems like in this day and age with the Marvel movies, everyone's favorite character seems to be Iron Man. But the biggest one is they at the very end they're talking like he's trying to find somebody. Anthony Mackie's character is trying to find Ant-Man, but he's doing it through different people, and so it's kind of like a big game of telephone. And when one of the characters is asking, who they have, he's saying we have the lady says we have someone who jumps, swings, and crawls. So it's an obvious point to Spider-Man, which is really cool. But the biggest thing I'm bummed out about is that they have totally neglected Daredevil. And I don't know about you guys, but Daredevil is maybe the best thing that Marvel has made. At least in my opinion, the TV show, it seems like, is the way to go with that type of hero, and maybe the type of hero for, or at least for Marvel in general. I think that it can do a lot more with 13 episodes that are an hour long than a 2-hour movie. Obviously, because there's more time, but it just seems like that was the way to go. And it bugs me a little bit that Daredevil has not been mentioned at all, because we know that that Daredevil season has happened before Avengers 2, and they've had Daredevil longer than they've had Spider-Man, at least in movie rights. So it seems like he should have at least been mentioned in that dialogue, but he wasn't, which is a bummer for me. Do I think that there will be a sequel? I don't know, because there's so many things. Marvel has had movies planned up until like 2019 or 2020, and it doesn't make sense for there to be an Ant-Man sequel because they've now set the origins of Scott Lang's Ant-Man, and they don't need a sequel because he's just. It seems like the way that they've set him up is that they are just going to put him into other movies. We already know that he was going to be in Captain America 3: Civil War, and in saying that if I don't know what will happen, but if he doesn't die, I'm assuming he will be in other movies, which is fine because I don't really think we need an Ant-Man 2 because I'm more excited for a Doctor Strange or a Black Panther movie rather than an Ant-Man 2. Although Ant-Man was very, very good, I don't think that it was anything over the top special like I think Avengers 2 and Captain America 2 were, at least for the Marvel Universe. But guys, let me know what you guys think. If you like the video, please shoot a like. If you think other people should see it, share it. If you have a comment on how you think Ant-Man could have been better or what you liked about Ant-Man, please let me know in the comment section below. Other than that, take care, and until next time.